Israel thinks that by the passing of time, and especially Netanyahu's government, that we will forget about the suffering of the Palestinian people. And the Israeli government, the current radicals in the government, they think that by the passing of time, people will feel powerless because they're unable to change the current situation in the Gaza Strip, in the West Bank, and they will feel that they are unable to enable the Palestinians to have a state for themselves and a dignified life and human rights to be respected in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, as I mentioned. And because nowadays some of the politicians in the government of Netanyahu, such as the ambassador of Israel in the UK, said clearly that she doesn't believe in the two-state solution and she represents the government of Israel. And also, we are seeing increasing attacks by the radical settlers against the Palestinians in the West Bank, where there is no Hamas. And this has been condemned by some of the Western governments, by the way. Even in the United States and in the UK, they are condemning these attacks on the Palestinians. And it seems there is a rift between some of the Western governments and the Netanyahu government about the future solution for this crisis in Palestine. Israel and the Israeli side is pushing forward to what is called the one-state solution under the rule of the Zionists. And I think this could lead into a regional war, and it could lead into huge repercussions in the region, especially that one of the preconditions or prerequisites or the vision that the Israeli government sees for this so-called future one-state solution is the expulsion of 2.2 million Palestinians from the Gaza Strip to the Sinai. And from Sinai, they're going to organize them not permanent, temporary residents under tents. Sorry, the speaker started all of a sudden here to the loudspeaker here in my studio started speaking. Okay, I will just take off this. Anyways, so they want to send the Palestinians to the Sinai, and from Sinai they are going to organize through the so-called humanitarian NGOs humanitarian asylum. I'm sorry, refugee status for the Palestinians in different European countries. I think the United States will not receive any Palestinian refugees in this regard, and many of the European countries will have to receive them. And here comes the ironic thing that many of the right-wing anti-refugee groups or political parties in Europe, they reject the reception of refugees and migrants from Middle East and North African countries. And at the same time, they support this war machine in Palestine, which will result eventually, if this continues the way it is, into a big wave of Palestinian refugees to Egypt and from Egypt to Europe. I don't know how are they living with that, but they know. And I have seen some of the statements of the right-wing politicians in Europe nowadays complaining that their liberal left-wing governments are ready to receive the Palestinian refugees. I would say, don't support the war machine in the region. Stop spreading war and stop giving excuses to these wars, whether it's American, whether it's Israeli, whether from any other country in the region. And probably there will not be waves of refugees in your countries if you want to solve that problem. I think the solution for that is easier than some people think it is.